Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy. Today we are talking about something that's a little more of a somber topic. I don't want to be piling on to something that everybody's already done, but Secret Guy needs to talk about Peter Cullen leaving and rolling out for the last time. Guys, let's just get into it. The toys are in front of us are my personal two G1 Optimus Primes. They're both authentic and they're both from way back in the 80s, 84, I think, or something. I am going to say a few things in this video that other people have said in theirs. I'm going to try to not say things that other people have said over and over and over again ad nauseum. So things like what Peter Cullen did in his career and times that they met him. And the things I'm going to tell you about Peter Cullen today are going to make you understand why I chose the title that Peter Cullen indeed lives. He lives for me forever, and to me it's because he's a man that understood what legacy really, really means. He knew that if, like anybody else, he lived and died like any mortal man, that his legacy would last as long as the things that he left behind that people carted around after he died. Personal belongings, family heirlooms, things along those lines. We all think that everybody will keep these things forever. And really, I mean, how long do you think people are going to cart around your jeans from 1995? They cart them around for a while, and they keep them for a while, and then they all eventually end up borrowed by somebody else, because, of course, everything we own is borrowed. Everything we own is borrowed. We came with nothing, we'll leave with nothing, and that's a true, true statement. There's a big thunderstorm going on in the background now as I do this video about being sad about Peter Cullen passing. Let's talk about that too. I didn't think I was going to be upset like this. I mean, this is something I've heard everybody say too, I think, or some people. And, when I first found out, I was talking to a colleague of mine, and we were talking about Peter Cullen's passing, and one of the things I mentioned to him was, it's not like we knew the guy, we weren't personal friends of his. It's not like we knew the guy, blah, 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 blah. And now all of a sudden everybody wants to act like they were his best friends. So, I said that just a moment ago. And, let me tell you something else about this whole thing that happened to me. There was a lot of craze in the last 10 years about getting stuff signed by Peter Cullen. Get your toys signed before, God forbid, something happens and you can't get anything signed. What people were really saying is, get some ink on your toys so that you'll be able to sell them for more money, is what people were really saying, which I thought was gross. I understand where it comes from, this whole stupid reselling thing, but it was gross. I am Optimus Prime. What a terrible Peter Cullen. I couldn't resist. So, interesting story. Like I was saying to the guy, we weren't his personal friends, and it's so strange, like when Hayden Panettiere passes away, or Tim Curry, or Dolly Parton. These are all people that, whenever you're watching this video in the future, have died right now. And then, of course, Peter Cullen. People start, oh, he was this, and he was that, and he's my dad. And, speaking of he's my dad, we're going to talk about that a bit as we go through this video. So I was the guy who was like, this guy is a voice actor. When I was a kid, I didn't care about who was doing the voices for the cartoons I was watching. The idea of that is ludicrous to me. And it's not, even the idea of looking up later, in years later, the lore of who voiced these things, these, characters in the cartoons they were in, is a bit nutty to me. A little bit fanatical, I guess we'll say. But stacks on stacks on stacks closed for today's situation. So, crud. Kind of lost my train of thought. But the point is I had said, like, who cares? Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, who cares about voice actors kind of thing? You were a kid when this whole thing popped off. How could you possibly have known or cared about who was doing the voices for your cartoons? That's kind of where I was with that, for whatever reason. This is one of my personal trailers, blah, 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 blah. It's missing some parts. There are some things broken. Your mom. And yeah, but I love it. It's beautiful. I don't know if it's all on camera, and I don't care. These are toys I have not touched in decades and never intended to. But I'm touching them today. Touch, touch. So, yeah, I'm Mr. Who cares about the voice actors? And, maybe I said that so I didn't get caught up in the craze of getting Transformers signed by people that voice the actors just so that you could make more money. I thought that was whack and gross. So whatever, I passed on all the signings. He was here where I lived 2 years ago at a convention, at a Transformers convention. And so I was, excited that he was here with Frank, but I didn't go see them because I wasn't interested in that kind of signing stuff or the meeting the guys at the time. Let's fast forward to when he passed away today. When I found out he passed away, and other people have said this too, that's how I know I'm going to resonate with something here for sure. But when Peter Cullen died today, passed away, went home, for me, one of the main people that I had in my childhood as a father figure, or for that matter, as a role model, please refrain from making fun of me for that, because most of my life people would have. But he was a role model for me. I looked up to him. And as far as I could tell, he stood for everything that was right, and, protection and integrity and loyalty and commitment and hard work. And these are all things that I could glean from his personality in the cartoon that I watched. And I wanted to emulate those things as a kid. And there were many others, there were, there were some funny ones, there was Teddy Ruxpin, and I don't know, I don't want to tell you guys too much about my insane childhood, but, there's quite a few characters that I looked to when I was, oh, you're in the way of the other one, we can't do that. When I was younger, stacks and stacks and stacks, as role models, how do I conduct myself in life? One of the main ones for me was a gentleman named Michael Landon in a television show. Well, I think originally I'd seen him in Little House on the Prairie, but then later in a show called Highway to Heaven. And it was a show that I really, really, really loved. And Michael Landon was like Peter Cullen, was what I consider to be almost a perfect father role. Not Peter Cullen, but, the voice, the figure that he was standing in for. Optimus Prime, the figure that he was voicing, Optimus Prime. And I look to these folks, to guys like Peter Cullen, and to Michael Landon, and to a great extent a lot of the other cartoons that I would watch. And so, today, when the news of this hit me, that Peter Cullen had passed away, sadly, I was really upset by it. I was really, really saddened by it, and I'm still very saddened by it, and I'm shook over it a little bit, and it's because somebody that I consider to be somewhat of a father figure died today and went back home. And, I was talking to another colleague of mine about the fact that he was also a bit sad, quite sad that Dolly Parton, Tim Curry, and now Peter Cullen have all passed away in about a 24-hour span. The thing that I told him was, when, somebody like this that had such a great impact on my childhood and my life, a good, positive, constructive impact, as I get older in life, it's hard for me to be sad when I find out that people made it out of here. I've got my own beliefs, and I'm not going to get into those here, at least not today. But in my belief system, they made it out of this crazy, hellish world, this fentanyl riddled, violent, new virus every 15 minutes, blah, 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 blah world. They made it out of here. They made it out of a world where many of them were suffering or ailing or missing their significant other who had left already to go home. And so many of these people have run the full gamut. And I'm happy. I'm happy that they made it to the finish line of this journey, of this race. And in my belief system, now they win. They really, really win. Excuse me. I farted. Oh my gosh, I can't help but be a comic. Anyways, I'm getting emotional, obviously, but I'm happy that this man won the race and gets to go win on the highest possible level a being can win on. And everything for him is all like unlimited energon. Actually, I don't think he even cared about energon. That was a terribly placed joke. But you know what I mean. Like where he's going, he's taken the final transformation. Really. Today, Peter Cullen transformed for the last time. And because, as I said in the beginning of the video, this is a man that understood legacy. He understood that if you left your legacy as a voice printed onto all these things, all these different pieces of so many people's history and past, nostalgia and moments in their lives, then you would live on a lot longer than someone who just went quietly into the night. And I've heard it said all over the place. Strength, be strong enough to be gentle, strong enough to be gentle, strong enough to be gentle. That is super cool, make no mistake. It's a phrase I'll remember forever because it's good. It's really good. But the thing I think I'll take away from a guy like that the most is his constant deflection of ownership over how cool Optimus's origin story was to his brother Larry, which it's all you're going to hear about. So it shows really how humble and just awesome he is. How soft-spoken he was. Yeah, very knowing eyes. Very talented individual. And I think another person said it in another video. This is what I would consider certainly a generational talent. And it would be a tragedy if he didn't get a star on the Walk of Fame. He certainly deserves one. I know that as far as voting is concerned, he would make those votes. So why does Peter Cullen live forever? At least for me. Well, that's because everything he did for me did not disappear for me when I found out today that he's gone. Just because I found out that his shell is empty now and that he is one and left this plane of existence, it's hard for me to selfishly just be super sad about the fact that he did so much for me and his legacy remains here for me to enjoy for as long as I am on the rest of this planet, or on this planet, for the rest of the days that I'm on this planet, be that in any kind of media or these toys that started it all of that is there for me, for me to be able to enjoy, and I will. And I think one of the best things I could do, and we all know this story, is to not let him die twice. People die twice. They die once when the spirit leaves the body, and they die a second time when we stop talking about them and telling people about them because they die a second spiritual death, so to speak. So I'll talk about him forever. I'll talk about optimists forever. And I want to take a moment to say thank you very much, Peter Cullen. Thank you for all of the things that you did over the course of your career and lifetime in the service and devotion of other human beings. I think that is such a beautiful and wonderful thing. For all those that are out there that might see this video, that are suffering or that feel any kind of pain over this situation, know that he's not worried about you, and he's not concerned about anybody who's sad now that he's won. He wins. He wins. If you really love him, be happy that he's won. His hardship is over. And I mean forever. And so now we get to show him the kind of impact he made on our life. Because he says in a few statements, look, when I'm gone, basically when I'm gone, hold yourself with some sort of moral and ethical code. Be gentle to each other. Be kind to each other. Quite frankly, it's one of the reasons I end every single video that I've ever done, full-length video, with, if you haven't been told recently, love you, secret guy out. I'm trying to hit on the fact that there's a lot of people out there that maybe never hear the words I love you. And when I say it, it's not a little thing that I add at the end of a video. I say it because I mean it. And those that understand tonality, would absolutely be able to pick up on that in my voice. So Peter Cullen, Semper Fi. Transform and roll out.